everyone, it's Haley, and today is Bookmas Day 17, so I'm going to be talking about some books that came out this year that I think are really underhyped, really underrated, and you probably have never heard of. Just in case you missed it, yesterday for Bookmas Day 16, I talked about some 2021 upcoming book to movie / TV show releases that I'm super excited for, so I will have that link down below as well as the entire Bookmas playlist so you can get caught up with all the videos that I have been putting out. So today's video I'm actually really excited for. I usually, when I do a video like this, I focus on books that I've read, and I will have some books that I've read in here, but I wanted to focus on some new releases that I hadn't even heard of and I came across and thought sounded super cool, because 2020 has been a year, you know? So there has been such saturation of news and everything that I really feel for authors who have debuted this year, because it's been hard to, like, it's been both a great year for books, but also, you know, there's been some struggles because, well, a lot of people are home and have been reading more and picking up new hobbies. You also have a lot of like different conflicting news that can kind of drown out people who are trying to get people to hear about their new books. So that being said, I came across some really awesome books, like they sound fantastic, and I'm super excited to share them with you guys, and I definitely hope to pick them up in the future because I honestly don't even have these books yet. Like, I hadn't really seen them anywhere. So I love finding out about new books and new and exciting stories, so I was really excited for today's video because of that, and I hope that it does help you find something new. Now, I do have a few books that I have read here, and I have talked about them in other videos as well, so I will be talking about them kind of quickly, and those I will leave for the end. I wanted to start off with these new releases that I am super excited about and hadn't heard of myself. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first book is Saving Savannah by Tonya Bolden. I had not seen this book anywhere, and at first glance, honestly, when I saw the cover, I didn't even know it was YA, so I was really pleasantly surprised to discover that it was. Not that I won't read adult as well, but like, it's just kind of my personal preference, but this sounds like everything I have been looking for recently. This is about an African-American woman who is becoming a woman on her own terms, and it is set against the backdrop of 1900s America, which is seeing a lot of social changes at the time. I love historical fiction, and I have been talking a lot about trying to find some that aren't so white, because it really is a genre that is very white. So I've been trying to find a lot of diverse historical fictions, and I was really excited to see that there's a new one out that I can add to my TBR. Honestly, I don't know why this book has been like, I haven't heard about it at all, because it sounds absolutely fantastic, and I hope that it will live up to my expectations, because I would love to have it to recommend to you guys. So I definitely am going to pick up my copy very soon. Like, at the time filming this video, I still have my birthday coupon at Indigo, so I might use that and get this book, because then I'll get it for 30% off, which is always nice, so we'll see. Next is The Invention of Sophie Carter by Samantha Hastings. So this one I think I plan on pre-ordering the paperback, because I know I won't read it right away, but it sounds so cool. So this is actually another historical fiction, but you follow identical twins, and they both want to go to Victorian London with their aunt. The one has aspirations to be an inventor, the one twin, and then the other twin has aspirations to be a painter and an artist. Now their aunt only has room for one of them to come with her to London, so what they end up deciding to do is like a Parent Trap sort of thing, where they are going to swap places and like keep on doing that so they both can go and both can have the experience of London and pursue their dreams. This sounds like it's going to be a mess. I love Parent Trap, so I love the idea of having that twist thrown into this story. I think it's going to be super interesting, and I love stories about sisters too, so I think this is going to be a really fun one. Next is Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by Samira, Ahmed. This is a story that is told in alternating narratives that span centuries, so you follow a couple of different characters who are both very powerful female leads. The one is in present day and is American, French, Indian, and Muslim, and is at a crossroads in her life, and the other character is set very far in the past, so 200 years earlier, and is struggling to keep her true love hidden. Now, I feel like this is going to be an interesting blend of the two stories. I do enjoy stories that take a present day storyline and mix it with a historical one because I find that they always have interesting commentary on the other, and actually Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham is one of the books that I read this year that did that, and I thought it did a fantastic job of it. So it definitely has made me a lot more intrigued in storylines like that, where you're going to have these dual kind of timelines that end up intersecting. It's a very interesting concept, probably really hard to write, like I can't imagine writing that, but I feel like this is going to be a very interesting story. Next is A Golden Fury by Samantha Cohoe. So this is once again a historical one. I don't know why, like basically all of these are historical. I have no clue why. I guess historical just kind of doesn't get hyped up as much, which makes me sad, but I do have a couple on here that are not historical, I promise. But this one also has a magical element to it. It deals with alchemy, which is super cool. It's set at the time of the French Revolution, and the character goes to Oxford, and the Philosopher's Stone is involved in it, so it does have like a little bit of everything thrown in there, which I think is going to make for a really cool story, a different twist on historical fiction. I love a blend of fantasy and historical, and the French Revolution is something that really interests me, and also Oxford is such an amazing setting, and the alchemy, Philosopher's Stone, like everything about this sounds really great. Next is The Enigma Game by Elizabeth Wein. I had no clue that this book was coming out, and I'm a really big fan of Elizabeth Wein. She is the author of, why can't I think of it? Oh my goodness. The Codename Verity duology, except this book is also apparently a part of that series, so I'm not sure exactly where it fits in. You follow a German soldier who risks his life to drop off this Enigma machine with British intelligence, so obviously that's going to be a really high stakes situation. It definitely reminds me of Codename Verity, the first book of hers that I read, but I'm expecting this to be heartbreaking and emotional because that is typically what she writes, and I don't think that I will have anything different from it, honestly. I think it's gonna break my heart, but I do think that it will be an interesting one as well. She writes about pilots a lot, so I don't know if that comes into it as well. Next is Heiress Apparently by Diana Ma. This sounds a lot like American Royals, and I'm all on board for that because I think it's going to be a lot of drama, but it definitely is a twist on it. So this follows the fictionalized descendants of the only recognized Empress Regent of China. Now, the main character has no idea that she is descendant from this bloodline, and she ends up uncovering this legacy that her parents have hidden from her entire life as she is trying to make it in LA as an actress. That's her dream, so obviously there's going to be a lot happening there. I can't imagine finding out that you are like descendant from royalty. Like that seems like a big like staff to carry basically, so interested to see how the character is going to deal with that. Next is We Are Not Free by Traci Chee. This is another historical fiction. I really don't know why they're all historical fictions, but this is following 14 different teenagers who all have bonded and made this community and family for themselves in Japantown in San Francisco, but they are all uprooted when they're forcibly removed from their homes and brought to these mass incarceration camps. So it is definitely going to be a really difficult read. It makes me think of The War Outside by Monica Hesse, which I haven't gotten the chance to read yet at the time of filming this video, but I should have read by the time you are watching it. So I don't know how I felt about that one yet, but I think this is going to be a really important read for sure. I've seen some great reviews about it, but I honestly hadn't heard that much about it, and I'm really sad because, once again, exactly what I'm looking for. This is going to be showing a different side of history that I don't know that much about, and I think it's one that I do need to know more about, so I am looking forward to reading it. And the final one that I don't have that I wanted to talk about is The Winter Duke by Claire Eliza Bartlett. So keep in mind, this is just like a handful of the releases that I could have talked about. I just kind of picked a few there that I could share with you guys, but there are so many. If you wanted to see what books came out this year, check out Goodreads. They always have a YA books of 2020 or like for each year list, and that's where I found these books, but also just kind of lurking around on the internet I came across them. But if you're looking for all the books that came out this past year for YA or whatever genre, Goodreads and the Listopia function is going to be your best friend for that. So this is a YA fantasy that seems really cool because it is a world that is divided with the ice, like frozen, basically uninhabitable, you can't live above the ice, but below the ice is this underwater kingdom where there's mermaids and all of that stuff. I love the contrast of the two, because when I think mermaids, I think like tropical. So to have an ice kingdom as well, that seems really interesting. But it also has a sapphic romance, and it is the Duke's daughter who is the only survivor of this magical curse. So the world, the fact that it's a sapphic romance, it all sounds like it could be a really cool and successful fantasy. Okay, so now for the books that I actually have read. Like I said, I have talked about all of these, I'm pretty sure, in past Bookmas videos, at least briefly, so I'll just be kind of giving you guys a refresher. So the first book is Master of One by Jaida Jones and Dani Bennett. I feel like I hadn't really heard of this book until I was reached out to do an event with the authors, and I'm glad that they did because I super enjoyed this book. It's like Indiana Jones but mixed with fae, so you kind of get a Cruel Prince element there, but it's like this team coming together. The main character, Rags, is a thief who ends up getting caught, and then he is forced by the sadistic sorcerer to find this ancient fae relic, but upon discovering what the relic is, he finds out it's actually an ancient fae prince, and a romance ensues between the two of them. So it is a queer romance as well, and the romance is honestly chef's kiss amazing. The chemistry between them is so fantastic, but also there are a lot of characters in here, a lot of perspectives, and they're all utilized so well. You have like the team all coming together, Avengers Assemble sort of thing, which was really cool. This is just a very action-packed fantasy that I think would appeal to a lot of people, honestly, so I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't been hyped up more than it is. Like, I feel like this is definitely one for people who have finished the Cruel Prince series. If you're looking for something new, something kind of similar, like in the fact that it deals with fae and you have a really cool magic system in here as well, then I think that this one, it should be, I don't know, I'm just surprised more people aren't talking about it. Next is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This is an interesting story because it is like the best of both worlds with contemporary and fantasy. It is a contemporary novel that really reads, well, it's a fantasy novel rather, but it reads like a contemporary is what I meant to say, because a lot of the drama is dealing with fantastical elements, but they kind of have a counterpart in reality, if that makes sense. It's using these fantastical tropes almost and different creatures. Sirens specifically, one of our main characters is a siren, and she has to hide that because there's a lot of prejudice against them, but it's using that sort of creature to have commentary on things that we would be familiar with in real life, and I think it does a really great job of that. It's a great story about sisterhood and friendship and the strength of those sorts of bonds, and it definitely makes you think. So one of the girls in this book, their favorite YouTuber, ends up revealing herself as a siren, and thus there is a lot of drama that ensues from that. But I thought it was a very cool world because it was just like reality, but there were just these different creatures peppered in throughout, which was an interesting read. These last few books I feel like are fairly popular, but I still don't think that they're as popular as I would expect them to be, or they deserve to be, but I feel like I heard about them a lot and now it's kind of died down, which is why I wanted to mention them. So Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron is a fantastic Cinderella retelling. It's a very feminist retelling of it, but I loved the fact that it was also a sapphic retelling, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of A Study in Charlotte, the Charlotte Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro, because instead of having Cinderella be like this fictional character, she actually existed one day, and that's kind of what that's the second book, A Study in Charlotte, does. So that was an interesting element to it. So Cinderella, Prince Charming, they were real people and not exactly as you might know them. So now they live in this kingdom where women have to go to this ball. They get 3 chances. If they are not chosen by a man at their 3rd chance, then they disappear. So obviously a really interesting concept. The main character is not interested in that. It's just, there's a lot of levels hidden here. It makes you think about a lot of external things, but it also manages to be a really interesting dark retelling that I felt like had a lot of action in it and definitely kept me intrigued. Next is Punching the Air by E.B. Zoboi and Yusuf Salam. This is a book that is told in verse, and it is such a powerful read. So Yusuf Salam is one of the exonerated 5, and he is now a social activist, and especially for prison reform. So he was falsely accused accused of a crime when he was younger and he was in prison because of that. So the main character of this book is falsely accused of a crime and ends up being imprisoned. And it's just like such a difficult read, but eye-opening as well. The writing is so beautiful. I loved the verse format for it. It just opened my eyes to a lot of things and definitely made me think. And I think that their writing also blended seamlessly together. Like you couldn't even tell that it was written by two authors. So it was just such a great story and one that I think everyone should take the time to read. Next is Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen. I have talked about this book a fair amount over the course of Bookmas, to be honest, but I think it's totally worth the read. So it follows our main character who she wants to be a dancer. Her parents don't want that. Her parents want her to be a doctor, and she's really trying to reconcile what her parents want and what she wants and how she can make her parents happy, thank them for all that they've done for her as immigrant parents, and still have herself be happy. So her parents end up sending her away to this educational program in Taipei where she will learn more about her heritage but also other things as well. But it ends up actually being a party basically for the whole summer, which is not what she was expecting at all. So there's a lot of character growth for our main character in here. I loved the cultural aspect of it and seeing her kind of come to terms with things and learn more about her heritage and how she can kind of blend the two. And I just thought it was a really great book overall. That definitely surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. And the final book I wanted to mention today is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Maybe it's just where I have been hanging out, but I feel like I haven't heard about this book all that much. And once again, there has been a lot of news this year, so maybe I've just kind of missed those things. But I don't want to say I liked this more than Stalking Jack the Ripper, but I think they are definitely on par with each other. And I really enjoyed Stalking Jack the Ripper. So this is the same author of that book. That's why I'm mentioning it. But this is different for her. It's set in Italy. It is also in the 1900s, 1800s sort of time period. I'm not exactly sure when, but you follow a main character whose twin is brutally murdered, and she sets off to try and figure out who did this and avenge her death. And she ends up summoning a prince of hell, and there's just such an angsty demon romance. She writes the best romance, so I'm just surprised that this one hasn't been getting so much hype, because I feel like it should. Like, I don't know, I just haven't heard about it as much as I would have expected to. So I feel like so many people love the like angsty demon human romance thing. I mean, it's a witch too, like there's witchcraft in here as well, so that is another thing that is thrown into it and done really well. I just had a blast with this read, honestly, so I feel like it belongs here because I think everyone should be talking about it. So those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope that it helped you to find something that you hadn't heard of before. Like I said, you can definitely check out Goodreads if you are looking to see what other books have come out this year. I picked a few that I thought sounded amazing and I definitely want to get my hands on soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Tomorrow is Bookmas Day 18, so I will be sharing with you guys every single book that I ended up reading in 2020, as well as some reading stats, kind of like an overview of how the year went for me. I really like doing that video, so don't forget to click that subscribe button so you guys won't miss it, and also click that notification bell. I will be putting out a new video every single day for the entire month of December, so you don't want to miss any of those, and then you will get notified whenever they post. So thank you so much for watching. Please do let me know what book you think was the most underrated of this year that no one was really talking about, that you want to just shout from the mountaintops about, because I think that this year we really need to be sharing those books, helping out authors a lot, because, you know, it's been a time. So thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video tomorrow. Bye!